Hey y'all, it's Lauren, and you're listening to Social Workers on Fire. And I have with me today Melissa Tootin, who works for First United Methodist Church here in Tuscaloosa. And so I'm going to have her just introduce herself, tell us your title, and kind of what brought you here.
Okay, so I'm Melissa Tootin, and my title is Community and Ministry Coordinator at First United Methodist Church. So I was working as the nursery coordinator for the church, and some people left in the office and they're like, hey, you work with the database. I think you might be good with our benevolence clients, which we call Matthew 25 clients. And so I said, sure, I'll give it a whirl. And I started in the office about probably 5 years ago. And
okay.
so, and the reason we refer to them as Matthew 25 clients is we base it off the verse, Matthew 25, 35, 36. And so it's, for when I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. When I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I needed clothes and you clothed me. I was sick and you looked after me. And I was in prison and you came to visit me. So before I even got in this position, that was set up from a pastor and all the work he did. So I was just trying to jump in and fill in. And like I said, as I got started and really started putting this verse into action, I noticed that I was building relationships with the clients and realized that I needed to learn more about the resources in Tuscaloosa. Because giving the clients the proper resources empowers them to kind of achieve their goals that they're looking for.
Yeah.
And as I began connecting with the clients to the right resources, then I began to see a lot more people coming through my door.
Yeah.
And
they're hearing the word like, hey,
yes.
healthy.
And so my office duties with the church database started to become less and less, and then I picked up more of a case management with our clients.
Yeah.
And that was, like I said, over 5 years ago.
Wow. So when the program started, has it changed since when you started and now, like what y'all do for this program?
Yeah, so right when I started, they had gone up to Birmingham to kind of evaluate what they do, because our goal was not to replicate other things that were going on in Tuscaloosa.
Right, yeah.
Kind of,
something new to the table.
Right. Do we need another food pantry? Yes or no? Those kinds of things. And so one of the things they found out was about a mail program. And so what the church, I think it's called Church of the Highlands in Birmingham.
Yeah,
but it's a United Methodist one. Anyway.
Oh, interesting.
They did a mail program, so they would give out their address and clients could have mail delivered to their church, which, as you know, it is crucial for them to get mail to get their IDs, their checks, food stamps, all these things.
Oh yeah,
and so,
you need it.
So we started that. Fun lesson we've learned though is when the clients, we do our job and they're ready to move on and move their address, don't go to the post office, because if you go to the post office, they want to try to change our business address. And that's not good if you want the checks to come on in. You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah.
So we learned that lesson, and then I don't know how big the trolley system was, but one of the other things was transportation. We noticed was an issue. So we started giving out trolley tickets, 10 single rides a month to clients, and again, that has grown so big that we've had to start a waiting list.
Wow.
Because
there's such a huge need.
It is. And, they need to get to work. They need doctor's appointments. Following up with the community resources, I know. And so that's kind of where we were like, okay, these are two things that we don't see a lot of people already doing.
Yes.
And like I said, if you have your own transportation and you can choose how you come and go, it empowers you to get the things you need done. And so that's kind of, and like I said, if you're able to get your mail in a safe place, even if you have a home, if you're worried about your neighborhood, this is a safe place, that works. And then we have a desk office volunteer that calls the clients. We have a phone number every Thursday to let them know they have mail, or they're more than welcome to call the church or come on in and check.
But that's great that you have someone that calls like, hey, you've got something here. So through that, you took on a case management role and started really working with these clients, connecting them to the resources. So at what point did you run across EMS prevention?
Okay, so hopefully Brianna won't be upset if I get it completely wrong, but my understanding is, so I got a call from the city.
Mm-hmm.
The lady is like, hey, I'm the secretary from the mayor's office, and we have someone who needs some trolley tickets, but they can't get there.
Right.
Do you mind taking them? And I was like, obviously, I don't mind, sure. So I went and met the people at McDonald's and shared about our resources, and one of the things was the mail program. And so I kind of got her set up or whatever, and then I don't know for sure, but I think y'all may have also gotten a call from the city, because
Probably.
then Brianna kind of shows up, and I can't remember if she was asking me for trolley tickets or for their mail. But the point being, she came to the church saying, hey, I'm helping this client.
Yeah.
That I know you're also working with. Can I get their things? I'm like, yes. And then again, I'm looking for community resources here.
Right.
And I'm like, so, hey, what do you do? And she's like, here's what I do. And I explained what we did. And so she gave me a card. And she just said, sure. Because I asked, I was like, hey, I'm kind of new at this.
Yeah.
I'm learning as I go. If I get stumped, can I call y'all? And she was like, sure. And I said, well, please feel free. If you need us, call us. Let me see how we can work together. And so that's kind of how it all started.
Yeah.
And I think it's been a really good partnership.
I'll be honest, Brianna and I were trying to remember. We were talking through the clients. We're like, who was it? And I remembered that Brianna met you first.
Yes.
Before I met you. And then I think it evolved into another client.
Yes.
And that was when Brianna kind of brought me in. We're like, hey, I think we found this new partner to work with, and let's get to know her. And so I think, like you said, it's become such a beautiful partnership, and we've been able to kind of tag team, honestly, in a way, work together on clients. And Melissa will call us and say, hey, I don't know what to do about this. Or we'll call her and say, hey, we need this resource that you're able to provide that we aren't able to. So I know that one thing we've kind of run into is both of us having homeless clients that are needing assistance. And one of the biggest barriers we talked about, you guys started to identify barriers, these big needs in the community, mail, transportation. And I think as we started to work together more, we noticed there's an issue of once you find housing to get these clients into housing, okay, they can barely afford the rent, let alone deposit, rent, utilities getting turned on, everything. And so you guys kind of evolved from there, right?
Right. So, like I think I mentioned earlier before, we have a Matthew 25 fund.
Yeah.
And that is a fund where church members give to help people in need. And so it's my job to discern how best to use those funds so that we can help a lot of people to not just be gone in a heartbeat. So
yeah.
What we do is we work with agencies like EMS, Catholic Social Services, Temporary Emergency Services, all these agencies that kind of have a case management plan, because our goal is to build relationships with the client and move them towards housing and self-sufficiency.
Yeah.
And I believe that EMS kind of has, your services definitely align with our goal at First Church to make a long-term transformative kind of ministry or service that's highly relational, and it means giving of our time, energy, and network, and so social capital. And that's what it's all about with us working together, is using who and what we know together, and who has finances to help, because you're right, it is. It's your deposit. It's your first month's rent. It's your utility deposit.
Maybe your past
deposit.
Utility bill.
Yeah, right.
On top of that.
Yes. And so, our funds are limited, but we've learned how to partner with other agencies to make our amount that we're able to give work better.
Yeah, and I think, because one thing I know we've talked about before is, hey, that maybe Catholic Social Services does this, or another organization will pay utilities, or whatever it is, or up to so much. It's like, okay, go to them first, because they do get the grants and the more funds.
Right.
And then, okay, now when we're stuck.
Yes.
And there's no one to turn to, we are out of ideas, it's great to have you guys as that backup.
Well, and that's kind of what I talk to our mission pastor about a lot, is that everybody, or there are a lot of people who may have exact utility services or whatever. like I got a call the other day from a city school system, and a child needed a plane flight back from the dad.
Yeah.
Right, because the mom had been in the hospital anyway, and so there's not really a fund for that.
No, I've never heard of one.
So she put the social worker put out like an all call to everybody.
Yeah.
And one of it's like, hey, I know that you tend to be able to have finances that aren't earmarked for certain things.
Yeah. Flexibility with
right.
them.
And so, but the biggest thing is it has to be from an agency so that we know that they're getting other assistance to move forward.
Yeah,
and
it's
so,
vetted. It's
right, but it can be sometimes something other than the typical housing needs, or it's a random housing thing that you wouldn't have expected.
Yeah.
So,
and I think another thing we didn't even triggered my memory when you're saying this. We didn't even talk about it earlier. Is again with those flexibility in the funds. Is we've had homeless clients that somehow have ended up here in Tuscaloosa and homeless, and they have no one here. Mm-hmm. And you get to talking with them and learn, well, I have a sister or a cousin or whatever all the way out in Colorado or wherever it is in the U.S. And it's like, they're happy to take me in, but I have no money to get all the way to Colorado. And it's been wonderful to be able to call you guys and say, hey, and you get a Greyhound ticket and send them on the way to sister's house. So.
Yes. and that again, that leads back to that whole goal of where can they be the most stable.
Yes.
And and I've had a lot of people come here for jobs and it fall through.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have no money.
Yeah.
And so, our goal is it's a one-way ticket, and you have to be going to somewhere that's better. It's not like, hey, I need to go to the beach.
And this sounds wonderful.
Right. So I'll take the one-way ticket to the beach.
Right.
It is, hey, I have no resources here in Tuscaloosa. They cannot meet my need. I do have family or someone that can meet my needs so that we can get them to the right space.
Yeah. And I think it's great. We've seen a lot of success with that as well.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
And so from that, as we started working with homeless clients together, I think we both, maybe around the same time, kind of learned about the COC here in Tuscaloosa, which is our homeless coalition. So here it's called WATCH, which stands for the West Alabama Coalition for the Homeless. And so we both joined that, both of our organizations and churches. And so with WATCH, we all meet, I would say monthly, but not always, every other month, but very frequently throughout the year with all these different organizations in town, like TES, Catholic Social Services, other churches, Turning Point. I mean, the list can go on and on, but we meet together to try to combine our organizations and work together to say, okay, I have this, you have this. How can we best meet the needs of our homeless population here in Tuscaloosa so that we can change their living situation? And so through that, we've gotten to work with Melissa even more, kind of in a different aspect.
Yeah.
And so one thing that you have to do as a part of your COC and with WATCH is there is PIT hit, which stands for like point in time count. And so you have to do that yearly?
Yes, yearly.
Okay. Still learning all this stuff.
Me too.
But so Melissa actually came along with you're in the coordinated entry. No, not coordinated entry.
I'm in, it's called Outreach and Advocacy.
Yes. The Outreach and Advocacy Committee. And so together with them, they came up with the idea of how can we get all the homeless people together? Because for the PIT hit count, what you have to do is one night out of the year, you have to essentially count all the homeless people in your city because it helps with funding for your city to help the homeless. And so they came up with this idea of let's try to have an event.
Yep. As read through all the fun information for the PIT hit count, one of the things it mentioned is that you can do, they call it a service-based count.
Yeah.
And I thought, what a great idea. Because we always know there are things that they need. And so what we kind of decided to do is on the night that we were going to count, we would have like grilled cheese and some chili, and they would come in and eat. We would ask them the questions because that's the thing, we have to interview them to put it in the data to get the funding.
Yeah.
And then we also had tables there for organizations that work with the homeless, like EMS, the health department, and EMS shall bring in firefighters to check blood pressure, which is great. And then we had a lot of organizations donate things like hygiene kits with soap and shampoo. We had socks, we had boots that were donated from EMS, and then we had a lot of clothing brought in, and so they were able to, and then we had snack bags also that they could take with them. And so it was just a moment that they could come in, grab something to eat, answer a little bit of questions, and feel like a kind of warm and inviting environment.
Yeah.
And then grab some things. And so true transparency, we didn't get as many homeless as we wanted, but
that was the first year doing
that's
it.
right, first
we
year.
Learn.
But we realized that for us, it was really good. There are a lot of positives, and now we know a couple of things that we can tweak, and so that we want to also try to do an event in the summer. It's not required by the federal government, but the more we can do these things, the more the homeless feel comfortable coming to us.
Yeah.
And then it aids our numbers as we move forward.
Yeah, and the more you build those relationships, like you said, the more comfortable you build those relationships. It's like, oh, they're holding an event. I love them. I want to go there.
That's right. That's right.
Know?
I know they got good free stuff.
Yes. And I think that was the best thing that came out of that event. Like you said, maybe we didn't get the most turnout we wanted, but just the community support that we had. There was so many donations. And so the people that did come, they got loaded down.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And then I need to mention too, like the Tuscaloosa. So one of the things they talk about in the Hick-Pick count is, going to hotspot locations, right? And so depending on how well we document that, we may not always know. And so I use the Tuscaloosa transit system. They're mapping people to make, based on some information they had, some maps, which helped organize us to better find areas too, instead of just, trying
free
to
driving out here.
just drive all around and find. So that was a nice, another plus that I think was an add to the event. So we'll kind of continue that. So always learning. I enjoyed it. Kept me busy for a while for sure, but I enjoyed it, and I think the word is going to be out now. So next year will be really good.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, before we wrap up this podcast, we just wanted to give, honestly, a shout out to the members of First United Methodist Church, because my understanding is your funding comes straight all from your members of the church, right?
Right.
And so we just want all of you guys out there to know that the giving that you're making to this program that you guys have is making a huge difference, and we're seeing it in our clients. You guys have been able to help so many of our clients get housing, so many of our clients get their power turned on, so many of them get to a safe space. And so we just really wanted to thank you guys so much for what you're doing, and we hope that you'll keep this program for years to come, because it's really wonderful. And we're so appreciative of you coming on here with us today, Melissa.
Well, thanks. I'm honored y'all asked. Like I said, it says God doesn't call, I think, the equipped. He equips you with what you need. And I am blessed that First United Methodist gives me this opportunity every day to reach out to the clients that come in and make a difference in their lives. Like I said, there have been some that have been with us for years, and they're still with us because they need some things, but because of my partnerships, they're in housing now. They're getting so stable, and it's just a joy. They always say if you go to work and you like what you do, and I do, and it is because of the support that the church members give us. They're giving, and they're just a great support, and I love it, and I'm sure they will keep it for years to come. And like I said, you and Brianna have been so instrumental in helping me get my feet wet in this arena, and so much so that I'm going to go back and get my social work degree, so that's going to be fun
for you.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
And that was also, my mission pastor mentioned that, and when he first did, I was like, I don't know, but like I said, when God calls you, you go. So
that's right.
That's what I'm doing, and we appreciate everything that y'all do with us too.
Thank you so much. Well, I know on the last podcast, I kind of made a call out to you guys asking you to share our podcast out there. And so today, here's my little speech. If we would love if you guys would follow our social media, we are actually present on Twitter, now known as X. I'm still bad about calling it Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. If you just search EMS Prevention or EMS Prevention Tuscaloosa Fire Rescue, real easily. We'd love for you guys to follow us on there. We do post whenever our podcast episode is released usually every other week. And then for our next episode, we are going to actually have one of our volunteers with our Adopt a Grandparent program and her grandparent that she has picked up. They have graciously agreed to come on together and talk about their experience with the Adopt a Grandparent program and how it's helped them. And so we hope you'll tune in.